Hello, I'm Casey Aiken, and this is 21 This Week. Coming up next, FBI Director Comey systematically dismantles Hillary Clinton's email defenses, but declines to prosecute. Is this a win for Hillary or the Donald? As social engineering, the Montgomery County bag tax has a big hole in it. And cool parents beware. Maryland Court of Appeals rules that adults who knowingly furnish alcohol to minors may be held culpable for the consequences. Our panel of insiders will give you the story behind the story. We're joined by education activist Cynthia Rubenstein, former chairman of the Montgomery County Republican Central Committee, Mark Uncapher, Republican activist Phil Bell, and political strategist Susan Heltemes. Stay tuned for these stories and more on the next 21 This Week. Are we at a point in American history where reality, like beauty, is in the eye of the beholder? It certainly seems that way every day. Earlier this week, FBI Director James Comey held an 18-minute press conference in which he systematically dismantled former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's email defense regarding the possible breach of national security, but he declined to prosecute. Democrats immediately denounced the years of investigation and another Clinton conspiracy debunked, while Republicans complained about how the system is rigged and we're turning into a banana republic. Our polarization has not only polluted the public sphere, it has also invaded the private one, soiling relationships among friends and relatives. And just log onto Facebook and you wonder how wrong everyone else is that you're connected with. Mark, many are ascribing nefarious reasons why Director Comey declined to prosecute. What is your view?
Well, I think this was a balk, if to use a baseball term. He basically set up the case for criminal prosecution for Hillary Clinton, but then held back and did it. I think the best analysis is that he was reluctant to have the whole election sort of get turned on his decision, and ultimately pulled back because otherwise it would have thrown the whole presidential election. Frankly, I think had she not been running for president, they probably would have gone ahead and prosecuted.
Cynthia, even some supporters of Secretary Clinton were surprised by the details laid bare in Comey's report. But will this be a forgotten memory come November?
I think this is going to dog her for a while. The State Department is going to do an internal review of this now that Comey and the Department of Justice have also declined to pursue. This could have an impact on people who worked for her at the time. They could have their security clearances rescinded and not be able to join her cabinet should she win. So this is going to dog her for a while, but I will say its life may depend upon how outrageous Donald Trump is between now and November.
Well, why should that be?
Because if he looks even more nefarious and worse than she, then people will weigh the two and say, well, Hillary is
the lesser of two evils?
No, Hillary is
Hillary's
not Donald Trump.
Susan, in Washington, we love winners and we love losers. So was this a win for Secretary Clinton?
Well, it was a win by default, quite honestly, because Donald Trump is so inept as a candidate that he didn't take it up this week. He started one night in a speech and then went off in his rants talking about Saddam Hussein and mosquitoes. And so he kind of lost his chance. And I think the headline here is perfect. It says careless, not criminal. And I think Cynthia is right. And yesterday in House hearings with Comey, he made it even less serious. And it wasn't a criminal intent, whereas Donald Trump wants to keep comparing it to Petraeus, but Petraeus intentionally gave secrets to his paramour and the writer who was going to write
and lied to the FBI.
Yeah, and she was going to actually use the data for a
biography.
biography.
Cynthia, I want to ask you a question. Why wasn't Secretary Clinton put under oath by the FBI?
I didn't know that she wasn't put under oath by the
It was made
FBI.
clear that she wasn't put under oath by
I
the
thought she
FBI.
was.
No, she was not. She was not. Well, I mean, the handling by the FBI is seriously questionable when they establish a new threshold for liability. Mark.
Well, but the key, actually, Susan picked the key word that is the distinction here, which is he said careless, which is almost like negligent. Had he said negligent, then he would have had to
No,
go
what he
ahead
said
and
was
prosecute.
extreme carelessness.
Extreme
Carelessness, though.
No,
not
Right,
extreme,
but
you guys are
extreme,
missing the point.
and
These-
that would have
this
had to
parsing-
trigger.
This parsing the words that we're doing is not exactly the thing that turns elections. That's what we do inside the Beltway or near the Beltway in D.C. The reason this helps Donald Trump is largely because people look at this and say, hey, look, here's somebody that has a constant drizzle of negativity going over them, which Hillary does as a result of this, and it will continue. And secondly, here's someone who's supposed to be the one who's competent, and if you're careless, you're not competent.
Now, look, listen here. When you talk about drizzle of stuff coming down, look at Donald Trump. I mean, never before.
But it's
has-
already baked in. You know
and
what
you
kind
don't
of person
think
Donald
that
Trump
crap
is. You know
that
what he
Donald
does.
Trump has pulled off is not baked into. I mean, honest to God, he has more lawsuits than anyone else. Stuff is coming up every other day, you know. And to say that
He
Hillary
sues people. He gets sued. Everyone understands
and
that.
he's corrupt.
loud.
And
we
you
understand
talk about
that.
what
But
Clinton does, but he refuses to release his taxes. And there are a
Well,
lot of people
why-
who are questioning that as to what is he hiding. There are
What is he
questions
hiding?
with him
What do
having
you
to
say
do
he's hiding?
with
This is
mafia
it's a non sequitur.
involvement.
Where's the Trump?
love
I
this.
mean, where's the Trump criminal investigation? I mean, we're talking about one of the issues that.
Well, I
that-
think there could be one.
Yeah,
there.
well,
but
let's-
there isn't. But right now,
Well,
keep
beyond
in mind, there's still a criminal investigation going to do with the political corruption issues associated with that. That was not taken off the table this week.
No, that's the one that the House said, well, yeah, you can go into it.
Well,
You
why,
know-
why,
I'm
why
sorry.
wasn't the FBI? Why didn't the FBI investigate whether she lied to Congress?
Well,
I mean, this just perpetuates
But
the,
they found
the investigation.
I don't know how long this investigation took, but through tens and tens of thousands of emails, interviews, congressional hearings,
$7
They
million
combed-
the House committee
they
admitted they have
But-
nothing.
But Susan,
so much.
there's no nothing.
Director Comey admitted that she did not turn over all of the emails as she said she
And
did.
yesterday
She-
it was there were there
he-
may be some, but it's
she
been
did-
moderated.
But the question is whether there was any classified information that she sent to others, and we know that she sent emails
It was
to
careless,
others.
but it was not
Extremely-
criminal.
It's no
There
different-
was
it's
no
absolutely
criminal
criminal.
matters.
What's
were
the difference?
classified
What's the difference between what
after
she
the
did
fact.
and what Petraeus did?
He was doing it so that his paramour could use it to put in a book. And one of the things that was concerned is there is nothing that says anything was hacked.
And where
Comey-
do you read into intent in the law? Intent is not mentioned in the law. This is a complete. This is a complete
Actually,
fabrication
and I didn't say
negligence-
intent is
negligence,
clear.
yeah.
When
by
you
the FBI director.
when you put a server in your basement and you knowingly conduct business through that, when you could have a government email, which is what everyone else in the department does.
But they have
it's
done
clearly
it in the
intentional.
past. The same thing at the State Department.
No,
And Comey's one
Comey
of
did
the.
say these were not the same situations.
But you know what Comey
not
said?
by any means.
That there has been a history in the State Department. It isn't just Hillary Clinton. It goes back to Powell and Condoleezza Rice and others.
So
Susan,
in Condoleezza Rice's bathroom was a server that was completely separate, so she could hide emails from who? Louis Gohmert? Was that the case?
But anyway, I want to go. I want to change the direction here, because we're focusing on the aspect of this one individual. But there's a more troubling aspect here, which undermines the nature of American justice. And Phil, earlier I said that some people suggest that we're becoming a banana republic, and that the ideal of American justice has been replaced by justice for the rich and justice for the powerful. There have been several attorneys who say they represent run-of-the-mill contractors, and they would have lost their clearance, lost their position if they had been charged with the same thing. So the question is, are we becoming the next Venezuela as a result of this?
Absolutely. I'd say we're probably closer to being the next Soviet Union, because when you look at this, not just this issue, but in the approach to Obamacare and the way that other aspects have been handled. It's one thing, it's going to be hard to overturn or hard to deal with if it's a big situation affecting someone who's too big to fail like Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama, but it's a different story if it's affecting you or I. If I drive 70 miles per hour down Hungerford, I will get pulled over, I will get ticketed, even if I didn't
You might
intend
even get
to.
shot being black.
I might, well,
Susan,
Not here in Montgomery
don't
County,
you
of
think
course.
that Secretary Clinton was treated differently than the average person on this investigation?
There's another legal thing, though, going on here, and that was the issue of precedent. And Comey was extremely reluctant
There
to
is no
set
precedent.
a new precedent for
The CIA director who David Petraeus isn't precedent.
no, we're talking about this level of
The CIA director
situation.
has to be sworn in and confirmed by the Senate.
But I want to go back to the internal investigation by the State Department.
You're going to have to wrap it up.
Which could result in rescinding of security clearances if they find culpability.
Well, that'd be interesting to see if they rescind Hillary Clinton's security
Not likely,
clearance.
but staff members,
if
staff
she
members
becomes president of the
Well,
United
it's
States.
nice to hear
When we
you're
come back from
using
the
Donald Trump's talking points now
When we-
about unfair justice, Casey. You're getting there.
Oh, thank you, Susan. I've never been complimented by you before for any reason. When we come back from this short break, an assessment of the Montgomery County bag tax, and the Court of Appeals has a new opinion for those who serve teenagers alcohol. Stay tuned. And welcome back. On May 3rd, 1980, 13-year-old Carrie Leitner of Fair Oaks, California, was walking along a quiet road on her way to a church carnival when a car swerved out of control, striking and killing her. Carrie's tragic death compelled her mother, Candy Leitner, to found the organization Mother Against Drunk Driving, which would grow into one of the country's most influential nonprofit organizations. When MAD was founded in 1980, an estimated 25,000 people per year were killed in drunk driving crashes. In 2014, the most recent year I could find statistics for, that number had been reduced dramatically to about 10,000 per year. But each year, particularly around high school graduation time, there are terrible examples of underage drivers being involved in fatal automobile accidents. And in further recognition of the evolving attitudes about the use of alcohol, the Maryland Court of Appeals ruled this week that adults who provide alcohol to minors can be held civilly liable for any death or harm that comes to others at the hands of the young people they hosted. Cynthia, is this a wake-up call for the cool parents who allow their children and their children's friends to drink alcohol while underage?
Yes, and it's one that they should have been expecting for a long time. As you said, in the lead up, this is something that happens every year around prom time, around graduation time, around homecoming. Young people, number one, don't have the judgment to make these decisions. They are going to do everything they can to consume alcohol, and literally there have to be adults in the room. And parents should know, and they should be held liable if they contribute to the aftermath of underage drinking and accidents, deaths, and maiming.
Phil, but here, conversely, how are young people ever going to learn to drink responsibly if they can't drink under parental supervision because the government has made providing alcohol a crime?
Cynthia said something very important. She said, well, there have to be adults in the room. But I thought the whole process of the educational effort was to train folks to become adults. By the time they get to be 17, 18, even 16 years old, they should be able to conduct themselves. And all this decision does, which is a terrible decision, is it takes the responsibility from the child, the young person, and moves it on to someone else. We should have folks, young people, who by the time they're able to hold a job, serve in the military, drive a car, should be able to understand how to conduct themselves. And we also need to take the temperature down on alcohol in terms of, well, it's this great thing you're going to get when you turn 21. It really isn't. Drink early, understand it, be safe with it, and grow.
But one of the things that is a problem with that is that when you are 18 years old, your brain has not developed to the point where you are, as a default, use good judgment. That doesn't happen until you're in your 20s. And so the tendency for someone that age is to overdo it.
But that's
unless you grow up in a family where it's normalized and you don't absorb the idea that the only way to drink is to binge drink.
But that's a latter day.
I got to say that I, personally had thinking back to a time when my son Peter was getting ready to go back into the Marines. He was going to go out and serve in combat. The night before he left, he and a bunch of his friends went drinking, and down in our basement. We had him in the basement. I don't think anybody, I'm sure nobody went out and drive. It's a very, very fine line, and it's sometimes hard for people, not parents, to appreciate where that balance is. I got to tell you, I wasn't going to tell him not to drink that night.
How old was he?
He was 19 at the time.
But he was in the
already
military
in
and
the
already
Marines,
served.
getting
See,
ready
here,
to go.
This is the dichotomy with our alcohol laws. We have individuals serving in the military. They can vote, they're legally adults, but they can't drink. And then we say you can't drink for another 3 years, and then half the student population in a college is going to be underage, and half the student population is going to be legal age, and that creates social pressures on everyone. I mean, we're trying to set restrictions on people when it's behavior that has to be controlled.
But even more than that, we're talking earlier about your ability and your development. How is it that we had at one point some of the founding fathers of this country being very young people when they started to fight and be involved, founded actual states, and were dead in their early 30s, but now you can't be fully developed mentally until you're in your 20s? That's a latter-day construct we've created just to compensate for the fact we have dumber people, less mature, and we're not doing more to help them.
That's an interesting view.
And the founding fathers were half tanked by 1 o'clock in the afternoon
Yes.
because water was so bad, they had to drink hard cider.
It was a health requirement.
Well,
It was a health requirement.
I think it's as you said, Cynthia. Not only has the Court of Appeals ruled on this, but the state legislature has weighed in on this and changed law. And parents have to understand that they're going to be responsible for the actions of others if they knowingly provide and knowingly serve underage drinkers. And now on to our final topic, and it's the one that just keeps on giving. The Montgomery County bag tax. The one tax that I love to hate, and it's back in the news. 4 years ago, government central planners said the intent of the bag tax was not to squeeze more pennies from the taxpayer, but to change the behavior of shoppers. And oh yes, we're going to save the environment at the same time. Recently released data suggests that the bag tax has been very successful in raising revenue, some $10.4 million in the past 4 years alone, but only a slight annual decline in the number of plastic bags fished out of the 15 trap sites that the Montgomery County monitors. It seems that people in Montgomery care more about convenience than saving the planet. So Susan, why don't you just admit it, that the bag tax has been a failure?
How you wish that were the case, Casey. You are just stupid on this idea. The bottom line is that
Tell us how you really feel, Susan.
when you drive around the county, Casey, there aren't bags hanging from trees anymore. They aren't in your front line. They're not on the streets. They have a far higher rate now of having a cleaner Potomac River. The bottom line is that we have decreased the use. It may not be as high as I'd like, or maybe Roger Berliner. The usage has gone down.
Actually, that hasn't. I
It
mean,
ha-
the disconnect here is that based on the revenue numbers that we have for the county, although there was a 0.25% decrease in 1 year, consumption of bags has gone up.
This is the issue, though, and they are absolutely right in that they need re-education again, because new people come into the community. Our economy is better, and I notice that when friends of mine...
Susan,
Wait a minute,
Susan,
you think
think
they're
about this
stupid?
re-education.
Wait a minute, I want to ask a question. You think they're stupid when they go to the retail store
No, let me
and they're
finish.
saying, you want a bag? And they
No,
say
no, no,
they're
that
charged 5
isn't what
cents?
I'm saying.
That
I'm
new
saying-
people don't figure that out?
No.
And
let
who
me
are
finish.
these new people that are coming in that are so stupid?
When you look at people, they're shopping, they come from other places. places they don't realize that. And the county is doing re-education. But if you go I go to the Safeway in Kensington where I buy my groceries, and people, men and women, Casey, go into their trunk and they bring in their bags. I don't see as many people using plastic.
All right, well, I want to go to Mark on this because County Council member Roger Berliner is also troubled that there hasn't been a bigger decrease in the sale of plastic bags and recommends even a more aggressive advertising, the same kind of thought control that Susan is advocating.
Right.
And
It's enlightenment.
Yeah. So has the bag tax really been a failure?
It's been a failure. If you go back and look at the language that was used at the time, they promised the council a 60% decrease in the consumption of bags. You go back and look it up, and it was based on the experience in D.C. where they claimed that they had an 80 because they didn't know what the original baseline. There hasn't even been a decrease.
Yet whole states are now doing it across the country.
I understand there's legislation pending.
Liberalism is a disease
Yes,
that is spread
but
across
the problem is it doesn't work. The disconnect is they're using the environmental groups that are talking about the streams. When you look at the actual number of bags that are being sold, it's going up.
So Cynthia, where are you on this?
Well, you're going to be shocked.
No, I'm not.
Shocked to hear me say this. I think they need to take a good hard look now that this has been in place
4 years.
4 years, and see whether or not this is the right thinking on this. I can say personally that it has reduced my use of plastic bags.
But they also tax paper bags, which is insanity. Coupled on top. Get rid of the plastic bags, okay, but you're taxing the paper bags also. And Mark, what's the cost of production here? Isn't there something that the cost of production for plastic bags is greater than any savings that they're going to net?
Actually, there is research that says that when you look at the environmental impact of the non-disposable bags, that actually the plastic bags has less of an environmental impact. You have to use it so many times in order to get the benefit.
It isn't going to go away, guys. They'll get used to it.
Well, maybe
if
we have a new county executive and county council when the term limit ballot
It isn't going to change
is
it.
going to be passed.
They're not going to have the majority case.
All right, stay tuned for parting shots. We'll find. We're still sniping at each other over plastic bags. God, what a great topic that is. So Cynthia, lead us off with parting shots tonight.
It's been a very difficult, disheartening, tragic week, and I still feel the burden of what's happened and what is continuing to happen. I came upon something yesterday. It's a saying by Ben Franklin, and I think it speaks to our nation and where we are emotionally. And that is that there is no justice until those who are not affected are as outraged as those who are. And I think it speaks to this week and what we have to face ahead.
Thank you, Cynthia. Mark, Uncapher, your parting shot.
Let me pick up on what Cynthia said. Last Thursday, of course, was the tragic incident of the police officers killed in Dallas. As it happens, that same day here in Maryland was a commemorative ceremony for 2 officers who were killed in Abington, and it was a routine police-involved issue where 2 officers were killed up at a Panera. It's a reminder of just how dangerous the job of being a police officer is.
Thank you, Mark. Phil Bell, your parting shot.
Well, lost amid all of the craziness that's happened this week, Maryland lost a legend, Tom Marr, longtime talk show host, broadcaster, sportscaster, and otherwise on WCBM up in Maryland. He was such a great, bold voice, not just for conservative ideas, but just in general, being someone who was pleasant to listen to on the radio, and he will certainly be missed.
Thank you, Phil. Susan Heltemes, your parting shot.
This last week has blown away every bit of energy I have in my body, especially the shooting in Minnesota, where I always think that we are in the land of Oz and things like this don't happen. And last Sunday on WHUR, they were doing a 4th of July festival program with Bobby Kennedy talking about when we start dividing people and criticizing people based on their race and religion, our country will go asunder. And it seems so true. And now the University of Maryland and others are saying that history majors no longer have to study American history to get a degree. As long as we don't have history majors even studying our history, we're going to relive it, and it is a sad day indeed.
Well, thank you all, panel. Thank you for being here. We've had very forthright discussions. We're all concerned about the divisions that are created in our country, but the fact that we're able to discuss them and even debate them vigorously shows that we still have the opportunity to remain bound as a nation. For 21 This Week, I'm Casey Aiken. You remember you can follow us on Twitter, follow us, like us on Facebook. I get this wrong every week. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and you can watch us on YouTube. For 21 This Week.
Now you need to add